Afternoon, everyone. I'd like to welcome you all to our ABA AEC Lunch and Learn. Thanks for showing up. Hope everyone had a nice 4th of July weekend. My name is Eric Cartola, Territory Account Manager here at KETIV. With me, I have a friend and colleague, Nigel Ambiak, AE, and a member of our Lifeline support team.
Yep.
So today, guys, we're going to try and keep it brief to about 30 minutes and just give you a high-level overview of Autodesk's new product packaging. It's the industry collections, what they're calling it. The goal of this is just kind of help you understand what's happening, what's changing, when it's taking effect soon, starting August 1st, so a couple more weeks, and kind of give you information to help plan on what you'd like to do, and again, just better understand what your options are. Hopefully after this webcast you guys have a better understanding. If not, feel free to type in any questions you might have. We'll do our best to address them. Otherwise, we'll be sure to follow up with you, make sure you guys do understand what your options are. And I think most of you are going to see if there's actually a benefit to what they're doing in this situation. It's a lot more simplified and a better bang for your buck, or better value compared to the current options.
Definitely.
Nigel, can you go ahead and show us what the agenda looks like for today?
Definitely. So today we'll be going over a couple of things, Autodesk licensing options. So as of today, you do have the most options ever for buying your product. You know, that's going to change a little bit here starting August 1st, so we definitely want to let you guys know what you can do now, what you won't be able to do later, give you all the information so you can make the most educated decision in regards to your company and your software assets. We're going to go ahead and do an introduction into industry collections. Promotions and next steps, we'll go over a couple of the promotions in regards to renewals, getting new product, and the next steps in regards to how
how you guys wish to proceed.
Exactly.
And then obviously at the end we're going to leave time for Q&A. This gets asked a lot, so I never thought to throw this in here, but I think it's a good idea that we did this time. Here's how you enter in your questions in the chat pane. I know for a lot of the people on here, this isn't your first rodeo or lunch and learn, quote unquote, but so you might be familiar. But for everyone else, just feel free to type them in here. Me and Nigel have a little screen at the bottom right of our computers, and we can sometimes squint and make out the questions, and if I see something relevant or it's not going to break up the presentation too much, we'll go ahead and address it. If not, we'll definitely talk about it before we get done. With that being said, Nigel, let's go ahead and just get started here.
Cool.
I don't want to spend too much time on this, and I'll let you talk to it, sorry.
No worries.
But essentially, we're going to be focused on those two red flags, those dates, 7/31 and August 1st. But real quick, Nigel, why don't you tell us, I guess, what's been going on this subscription for people who might not be aware?
Yeah, so we've been going over this, extensively over the last couple of months. Change of perpetual licensing were announced March of last year. They're changing from the perpetual license model to that subscription model. We'll go over the details on those two models shortly here. But essentially what they're doing is Autodesk was changing the way people buy their software, and we're at the tail end of that here, where the sale of suite perpetual licenses, as well as things such as data management and simulation, are ending, and those things will be available starting August 1st as subscription only.
Gotcha. So real high level, today you can buy software two ways. You can buy it and own it. It's called perpetual license.
Maintenance plan.
You own it forever as long as you have hardware that supports it. The other option is Autodesk refers to it as a subscription. I refer to it sometimes as a rental or a lease.
Mm-hmm.
It's essentially you pay to use software for a fixed term, anywhere from 3 to 36 months. You pay for it up front. When the term is up, you can decide to repurchase another term or let it go and it expires. Usually, this is 9 out of 10 customers we have and people we talk to. You have a perpetual license, and you have what's called a maintenance plan on there, which is essentially a way to protect the upfront investment you make in the perpetual license. Hypothetically, I buy software for $8,000, a one-time license fee. I pay $1,000 every year. That's going to give you the most current updates, and I'll let you talk about what it gives you.
Yep.
And then in 4 or 5 years, when I do need the newest software, I upgrade my systems. I have it because I'm constantly paying the maintenance.
Definitely.
And it's less expensive than making that upfront investment all over again.
Mm-hmm.
Again, this might be a little repetitive, but we think it's valuable to include it. Why don't you quickly tell us, Nigel, what comes in a maintenance plan?
Definitely. So real quick here, as Eric said, you do get the latest software releases as they come out. Every year Autodesk does release those updates. You do get them the day they come out. Licensing ownership, you do own your license forever, regardless if you pay the maintenance fee or not. If you don't pay the maintenance fee, what happens is you're stuck on the version of the software that you have and you can't move forward. or backwards even from that point. You have Autodesk cloud services, which are things such as cloud storage, cloud rendering, all available to you.
Green Building Studio for Revit, energy analysis, same thing. You get some basic. I'll let you finish it.
Definitely, no worries. And you do have your basic technical support from Autodesk, and that's via email. They do get back to you within 24 hours. You can create a case there, and they'll be able to help you that way. A lot of our customers do take advantage of what KETIV calls lifeline support. What that is it's KETIV's own support. And our staff here, knowledgeable staff, including myself, hey, we do answer your questions regarding installation, troubleshooting issues in the software, finding what your errors are, and even helping you a little bit in regards to your models and everything. So that's available to you if you have any questions about that. I see some of our customers in this webinar right now are some Lifeline customers, so hello. And those of you who aren't, if you want more information, go ahead and ask us, and we'll definitely get that to you.
Okay, so I'll wait for that screen to load here. I think we're lagging. So subscription, it's essentially the same thing as a maintenance plan as far as benefits go. I'm getting the constant updates. If I bought a 3-year term today of, let's say, Revit, I'd have 2017, 2018,
yep.
2019, and then 2020 at the end of it, actually, if I left off. Same thing if I had a maintenance plan or maintenance subscription with a perpetual license. And I'm paying that every year. I'm getting the constant updates. I guess the biggest benefit of subscription, or the positive you could say, is it's less money up front, less money invested.
Yep, lower cost of entry.
Exactly. And then easier to ramp up and ramp down, or scale up and scale down, because, again, it's less money invested. My term lengths are shorter, flexible.
Yeah. So yeah, the term lengths aren't always shorter. You just have more flexibility in regards to what your term lengths are. You can go from something like 3 months. If say you have a summer intern there, you want to get them a license to Revit so they can work for you during the summer. You can have that term, 3 months. After that, you don't need the license until the next year. You're not stuck with a license you're not using for those 9 months, which is definitely a big deal. So moving on. We're at the end of this year, and it's still perpetual licenses, industry collections will be available starting August 1st. So let's just go over this again. You cannot buy an industry collection. We're going to go over what those are. You can't get those until August 1st. But for the time being, you still can buy your Suite perpetual licenses. And just to keep note, your investment is protected. Just because they're ending the sale of Suite perpetual licenses doesn't mean they're going to stop giving you those updates. They're not going to stop giving you that software. As long as you keep that maintenance current, you do get the software that you bought.
Yeah, good point. So everything you buy now before the end of July, or even before they started making these changes back in January, you're grandfathered in as long as you're before those dates. So terms for you won't be changing. Mm-hmm. It's everything going forward.
Definitely.
Okay. Which I think everyone's aware of. And this is kind of where we're at right now, the industry collections, the product packaging. This is kind of the meat and potatoes of what we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
These are some of the benefits up there. Simplified packaging, I think that's the most important for me and the people we've kind of shared these collections with. That's the biggest benefit that they see. The fact, right now, I think there's about a dozen different ways to get Revit, and maybe 24 different ways to get AutoCAD when you start talking about single user, multi-user, a network license.
Premium, standard, ultimate collection, or suites.
Right, it seems like they've been changing. I think Autodesk has been changing them constantly for the last couple of years. So Definitely. Once you learn the nomenclature or what's included in one, that package might change. Industry collections is essentially, I guess in a nutshell, yeah, everything you need for an AEC professional. If I'm a civil engineer and I need Revit from time to time, well, it's in there. If I am a architect and I need a tool for land development, city planning, I have that. If I'm an MEP firm and at times I do commissioning, P&IDs, I have all that. And mm-hmm. That's one package that has this. And I think the question most people are asking, as I see $ probably type up in the question bar, is, well, what's the con? It has to be at a higher price. We'll go ahead and explain that later, but you'll see it's actually at a more favorable price to you guys than it was before.
Definitely.
And then going on the whole, more tools in there. Those tools are really only relevant to you if you're actually using them. This continuous improvement, I think that really just applies to having more tools available to you and helping you differentiate yourself from the competition. Mm-hmm. As I mentioned, if you want to expand your current service offering, now you have those tools to do that. at that same price. So you can kind of grow and adopt those things and help leverage them to improve your business. And then flood the options to rent or subscribe to just AutoCAD if I want that, or for a nominal price increase, I can have a whole package of other things.
Definitely.
Essentially, you're getting more flexibility and choice because I'm not locked into a standard, a premium, an ultimate, or even an industry. I'm a civil engineer, so I need to buy this civil suite because it contains Civil 3D and the other tools I need.
Mm-hmm.
You have more flexibility because you have more options presented to you.
Definitely, and and along those same lines of subscription, you can get this whole collection. And say, for example, the next year you just wanted Revit, you can scale down to just Revit. You're not stuck having to pay like the maintenance per se for that collection because of the subscription model is inherent benefits. So let's move on here to the next slide here. Purchasing your software kind of was a bit of a obstacle course, initially, up until now, because you kind of have to decide whether or not you want that individual product, you want that suite, and then if you want a suite, you have to decide which one you want. There are like half a dozen different suites, and each suite has 3 tiers. So if you multiply those, there's up to 20 different ways you can get AutoCAD. So it's easy. It's as easy as 1, 2, 3 now. As cheesy as that does sound, one, you do select your product, whether that's that single product or you want that whole industry collection. We'll go over what's included in that collection on the next slide here. You select your access type, whether you want there's single user access, which a lot of you know as your standalone licenses, or multi-user access, which is that network pool of licenses that you can share among people in your work group. And 3, you select the length of the term. Pretty straightforward. That's how long you have that license for. After that's done, you can re-up, or you can get something else if you really want to.
Right. I think it really just takes a lot of the risk away because I think everyone, when they do have to make that software investment, they're worried about, am I getting the right thing, or maybe I should get this? Mm-hmm. Do I really need this many people on Navisworks managed doing clash detection, or can I get by with this? And this is just a much easier way to do it. It's going to streamline a lot of things, and it's going to help us avoid talking about policy and packaging.
What's included where, stuff like that.
More about what you're doing now and what you're trying to achieve.
Definitely.
So I'm not sure if everyone can see this right now, but if you're looking and you're facing the left, that's the industry collection or the packaging for the AEC industry. I'm sure there's a lot of tools you're familiar with. If we're just starting on the left-hand side, AutoCAD, architecture, built on AutoCAD, obviously. Same thing with Civil 3D. You've got electrical, again, if you are a firm that does some commissioning and you need to create process control diagrams. MEP, P&ID, Plant 3D for some of our civil customers who actually might be doing stuff in the wastewater industry, or some of that design. Utility design, again. Navisworks Manage, I think, is a big one up there. Clash detection tool. Yep. That's only available right now in the higher end suites. We're calling the ultimate suites. That right there to rent alone on its own is about $2,000 a year. This whole package right here you guys are seeing rents for about $2,500 a year. The pricing details will be released next week, and we'll share that information with you as we get it. Obviously, feel free to contact us for that, but approximately $2,500 a year is going to get you that whole collection. And just to make the distinction, that's 1 year per one user. 3 years, approximately $7,000. Yeah, if you're to compare that to, let's just say, perpetual license, $2,700 a year. My mistake, long weekend. Nigel, go to the building suite, for example. Bear with us, guys. We're using our web browser here in the office. So this building suite right now, if you go to the middle one, which I think is the most common for at least a lot of the customers I'm seeing here, the middle one, the premium, the one that includes Revit as a backbone product, that suite, just to buy it and own it once, it's about $7,000, $6,800.
Then you have to pay your maintenance every year as well.
And usually you're only using 2 to 3 tools out of there. An architect might be using architecture in Revit, some projects, and then maybe a 3ds Max as a visualization tool. If they're a design build firm, maybe they're using Simulate, Navisworks, for 4D and 5D processes. That suite you're looking at over there, roughly $2,700. By the time you break even on that, it's about 5 or 6 years out. So for a lot of people, owning a subscription might make more sense. And again, and if it doesn't, you still have the option to buy and own that suite for a couple more years.
Yep.
And you also have the option just to rent any one of those products for those term lengths we mentioned, 3 to 36 months.
Mm-hmm.
Revit, for example, is about $2,000 a year. That price is reduced from what it used to be. You can get Revit and those other tools I mentioned all for that one price, $2,700 a year approximately. And again, I think the biggest benefit we're going to see is the packaging is much more simplified.
Definitely, yeah, less choices, less tier options, kind of makes everything a little bit easier. Just to make note, those of you who do have those collections, there will be a direct path for you to go from that, from your suites, which you have now, into collections. For those of you who are on subscription, for those on maintenance, those perpetual owners of suites currently, there is no path yet, but Autodesk said that somewhere in the pipeline. We'll give you that information as soon as we get it. So definitely, your investments are safe.
Yeah, and do me a favor, Nigel. Go back to, excuse me, our PowerPoint.
Sure.
With the listing of collection products. So some of those cloud-based tools, a lot of you are already getting that. You have Revit on subscription, so you'll get the rendering, the structural analysis. A couple of those tools I think are pretty relevant. I mean, it's actually on the left, vehicle tracking. Mm-hmm. We've got a lot of civil engineering firms. Might be using a competitive solution, the Transoft. I think it's called AutoTurn. Essentially, it runs about $1,000 a year. The Autodesk about $800 a year. Now you're getting that. So in theory, depending on the projects you work with, that's one less product you need to purchase. You already gave them your suite. Insight 360, great tool for energy analysis, kind of building on Autodesk whole cloud-based theme. Format 360, Autodesk competitor to SketchUp 360. The idea being I start with my conceptual design, and then from there I can directly import that into Revit, as opposed to being from the SketchUp where I download it from the database and have that conceptual design and can't do anything with it. This is a more connected workflow.
Yep.
Again, I think the value is there in a lot of those tools. For example, Plant 3D for a lot of our customers in kind of the in-between space, I like to call it, between manufacturing and AEC. That tool alone rents for about $3,000 a year right now. Mm-hmm. You're going to be getting that for less money. So anyone on that subscription alone to Plant 3D, you're automatically going to see a price increase in addition to the other tools that you're going to be getting.
For sure, and definitely. So essentially, what Autodesk did here was they took, the three big suites in the AEC side of things, that being building, infrastructure, and plant, and they kind of mushed them all together into one collection. The collection just happens to be more price effective than those suites are.
Yeah, you're getting more for less if you already own a suite.
Definitely.
If you don't own the suite, you still have the same options that you did, and you also have the options to move into a suite or a collection. Yeah, excuse me.
Yeah, it's a little hard because we're transitioning. We keep using the word suites on accident, but collections.
And you can move into that collection for a lower price than before.
Definitely. And if you do have, a lot of people have been asking this question. I see it in here. If you do have a product like AutoCAD, that you rent individually and you want to move into the suite, if you have a subscription of AutoCAD, you can go straight into the suite, you can go straight into the collection. You just pay the difference between those two prices. That's prorated for the remainder of the term. If you have individual questions based on your individual situations, we'll be more than happy to answer those. Give us a call. We'll have some of our contact information here at the end.
Yeah, Rick and Alex, I see your guys' questions, and we're going to go ahead and address them right at the end in the next 10 minutes here. We're just about wrapping up, guys.
Definitely. So let's continue on here.
Okay, again, we're going to keep harping on it because I think it's important, and we're only going to have 2 or 3 weeks to harp on it. Then after that, we'll have to talk about something else. Last chance for perpetual licenses. If you guys want to buy and own the software, you still have about 3 weeks to do that. You can also still network an existing license. For those of you who aren't aware, I think most people are, but just in case, a network license is essentially like a user key or a library key. It doesn't allow 2 people to use the same license or same software at the same time. However, it allows them to share that same software. So, for example, if I'm using the software right now, Nigel couldn't access it if he's connected to the network.
That's if we have 1 seat. If we had 2, we could both use it.
Right. If we're sharing 1 seat, I could be using the software, and as soon as I'm done, if I step out to lunch here in a minute, Nigel can access the software.
Yep. On 2 different computers, they just have to be connected in the same network.
Anyone anyone there. So that option is still available if you have perpetual licenses, and it's a good go-between in between buying someone else their full subscription or maybe full own perpetual license. If they only need it part-time, you might want to consider networking your licenses. You got a couple more weeks to do that. The last one, they're locking in your maintenance rates. I think that's relevant for people who are on maintenance subscription. You've already made that investment. You're probably going to want to maintain that. It's definitely the most cost-effective way to maintain it after you've already purchased a license. So continue to pay that and see if you can lock it in. You don't have to worry about it.
Any price increases? We do see price increases. So yeah, you can lock in that current price for up to 3 years. That's the maximum. And you know, speaking of renewals, that's one of our current promotions here. Eric, if you'd like to go over this.
Great. Yeah. So anyone who is it's called the loyalty program. It's essentially Autodesk Q2 promo. But what they're doing is, if you do have a maintenance contract that you'll be renewing here, or actually just any contract. So last year I bought a 1-year collaboration for Revit, and that contract's coming due. If I renew that between now and July,
22nd.
The 22nd of July, thanks. I'm going to get half off or 40% off of either C4R, collaboration for Revit, a cloud-based tool used to allow people to co-author the same Revit model. I'll get 40% off of vehicle tracking, or I'll get 40% off of InfraWorks 360. Mm-hmm. So for a lot of our customers, I think we've reached out where it's relevant. If you maybe have a subscription of one of those ending in the next couple months, it might be worth it to let that fall off and just renew your existing contracts and purchase another subscription at half off or 40% off.
Definitely.
One other thing to note is, although this promotion ends at the end of July, your contract doesn't need to end at the end of July. You can have a contract ending in
90 days.
October. So I can renew that 3 months early. As long as I do it in July, I would be able to take advantage of this promotion.
Yep.
Again, feel free to reach out to Nigel or myself or anyone else here on the team for more details, and we'll be able to kind of quickly tell you if it's relevant or not to you.
Yep.
But just something to keep in mind.
Yeah, we can go over your individual situations. Getting a good amount of questions here. We'll cover those in a little bit. Just want to reiterate: stay connected with KETIV for industry updates to these industry collections as we receive more information like pricing. We will post them. On all of our outlets. We do have previous recordings of all of these lunch and learns, including product demos. Currently or frequently asked questions in terms of troubleshooting problems in products. We do make videos for those and post them up there, so that's definitely something to look into.
Great. Now let's go into the Q&A. And I know, thank you guys for the questions. Appreciate it. I'm sure if it's something you're asking, it's something everyone else is probably thinking of. I'm going to go ahead and probably address 3 or 4 people's questions here at once, or hopefully elaborate on an answer. That way it's going to answer a couple of them. Biggest question is price. I'm seeing it's along the whole theme of what is a price cost, what's better to buy and own. It's kind of generic. I think it just depends on the firm and what their objectives are, but let me kind of just give you a real high level the pros and cons of both. The biggest benefit of buying and owning the software is it's the cheapest way to own the software in the long run. Yep. Depending on the products you're owning and the deployment, either single user or multi-user network, you usually break even about 4 years out. So owning that software and purchasing it with the maintenance plan, updating it every year, you're going to be cheaper right around the 44-month mark as opposed to subscribing or renting the software for 1 year at a time. On the flip side, the benefit of the subscription, it's kind of what we mentioned, is there's less money up front. Your capital's not tied up. You can scale up and scale down. Just kind of answering it from what we see most firms do, again, depending on the size, most is kind of ambiguous, but they have a mixed environment. So they'll have certain people with perpetual licenses that they've had forever, an old architectural desktop that they've upgraded with years into Revit Suite or whatever it might be. They have those as the backbone, and then they also use the rentals or the subscriptions from time to time to kind of scale up and down with their new project demand. Yeah. Same thing on the civil side. Someone might have started with LAN desktop back in the mid-2000s. Now they've got Civil 3D, and they maybe have a couple people with a suite because they need to use Navisworks or tools in there. And then they might rent Civil 3D for interns from time to time. So I think the biggest thing most firms consider is, or we talk to, is the upfront cost and the break-even point.
Yep.
If it's a single-user break-even point, it's usually about 4 years out. One thing we didn't mention on pricing is network subscriptions, and we'll get into detail more of what that is, but a network subscription essentially works like a network license where
Yes.
multiple people can access that same subscription, not at the same time. That is considerably more expensive. So it's about $2,700 a year for one person to have their own subscription.
That's a standalone, yes.
It's a 50% premium for a networked. So 13, 27, roughly roughly $4,000 for someone to have a networked subscription.
Of industry collection, and that number is not solid. We don't have that exact information, but if Autodesk does follow, the same kind of multiplication scheme that they have on all of the individual products, that's what it'll end up being. But we'll get you that once we get solid pricing.
Right. It's not confirmed per se, but it's going to be around to have a network subscription
to an industry collection.
Exactly. So people sharing a subscription. If you want to compare that break-even point to what a perpetual license might cost, now you're talking about 3 years. So take maybe an $8,000 to $10,000 investment for the software networked that you can just already add to your network server compared to a networked or shared user industry collection. Again, the break-even point's about 30 months out. Yeah. So again, feel free to reach out to us. We'll give you the details and the hard numbers on that. But I think that's something that's relevant to everyone here. And then the next question we see here, or again along the theme of questions I wanted to address, is how does a multi-user subscription work compared to a networked subscription rental? And Rick asked that. Can you clarify that?
Yeah. So multi-user subscriptions and your current maintenance. Subscriptions that are current maintenance that is networked, they'll work the same. You're going to use the same licensing manager on your centralized server there. You're going to be able to reach it in the same ways. They're kind of installed in the same ways. It's just a different way of purchasing the software, and that term will end kind of changes that a little bit, but essentially the same thing.
So it's going to work like a network license then.
Correct. Yeah, you're going to need a new network license. We can definitely supply that for you here on the Lifeline team, but it works exactly the same way, and you can even use the same server, the same licensing manager, and everything.
Okay, and then going on that theme, I've got another question here too from Paul. If I purchase a collection for a single user but want to make it a network collection later, can I still do that, or do I have to buy another network collection? So I'll address that, and you can probably correct me where I'm wrong here. As of right now, yeah, you would have to buy a second collection or subscription. So the thing about subscriptions is whatever you buy, you are locked into for that term.
For the term.
So I get a price break for committing to 1 year and paying for 1 year up front for a subscription. If I go out to 3 years, there's also a small price concession because I'm locked in for 36 months. So that's kind of the pros and cons there. The other thing to think about is, yeah, you are locked in. If I needed something else, if I needed to make that a network subscription, as of right now, you wouldn't be able to do that. You'd need to purchase a separate subscription later on.
Correct. And that's based along the lines of it being term-based. For things like perpetual licenses, if you want to change your standalone perpetual license to a network, you can do that up until the end of July here. So if that's something you've been looking into, definitely look into it a little bit more, because you won't be able to do that in about 3.5 weeks here. Looks like we do have a couple of questions from Kendall in regards to some student licenses and education licenses. I do have a paper somewhere kind of explaining how the product industry collections will work in regards to that. I'll definitely get that to you after this is over.
Yeah, and I don't think they've asked questions, but there's a couple other people involved with the government on this webcast. So, Kendall, we don't deal with the education sector. We strictly deal with private. In the past, I think as of 5 or 6 years ago, we used to be able to do both. Autodesk has actually created a whole separate division or a separate partner that handles all that. I'll make sure after this webcast, Nigel and I follow up with you, and he gives you information that we do have. It's kind of limited, and We're not exactly policy wonks on it because we don't really deal with it day to day. But we'll be sure to get you that information and the right contact info to someone who could definitely answer all your questions, because to be quite honest, I'm not exactly sure how it does affect it. I know you're affected by these changes, but the rules are always slightly different for you guys.
Yeah, there's a couple paragraphs in one of the documents that I received about that I kind of skimmed over. I'll make sure to get that to you afterwards.
Gotcha. Let's take another one here from Brian. What guarantee do I have that that Autodesk is not going to increase the rates once they have me hooked on subscription? Yeah, good question, Ryan, or good note. There is no guarantee per se. I think the longest thing you can guarantee is the contract term you lock in. So for 36 months, you know nothing else is going to happen. That's the maximum contract you can lock in. In theory, I guess you're right. They could decide to, once you have you using that tool as your backbone, decide to increase the rates. I think the biggest buffer against that is the fact that they don't want to lose you as a subscriber or user. It's still a competitive market out there. It's
Definitely.
Free enterprise. So I think that's the biggest thing you'll see. And just kind of speaking from experience, so when these subscriptions came out, I think that was kind of a lot of people's concern is, well, if I do it for a year, then it's going to go up next year astronomically higher, or my cost of ownership is just going to increase. They're just trying to get me in the door. Actually, the last 6 months to a year, we've seen the opposite effect. Prices have gone down for subscriptions. For example, I think Revit used to be about $2,300 a year. Now it's down to $2,000 a year. Civil 3D is another example. That used to be about $2,500 a year to rent. Now it's about $2,000 or $2,100 a year to rent. So I think it's going to go down. I'd like to think it's going to go down, or at least stay the same.
Or stay the same.
But I don't have that answer. All we have is the information provided to you.
Definitely.
And we'll be sure to notify you if something else changes. But
We'll get you
hopefully that kind of helped answer that question.
Yeah, we'll get you that hard pricing information once we do get that information. Just to note, we have seen prices go up for things such as maintenance plans. Your maintenance plan, it goes up, some nominal amount, like $50 a year or something every once in a while. And that's just, to cover inflation, stuff like that. And that's what we've seen in regards to that. So we haven't seen a huge hike in price per se, but these kind of small nominal things.
Okay, and then another one here, Kyle. If I purchase a subscription of a standalone, quote-unquote, single-user product and want to move towards a collection, how does that work? Do I have to purchase over again? Do I get trade-in value?
So I can answer that. So if you do have a suite that is premium or ultimate tier, regardless of what suite it is, if it's a subscription, you can move directly into an industry collection at no cost. If you do have a subscription of an individual product, like I mentioned before, like AutoCAD, or you just have Civil 3D as a subscription, you can switch to an industry collection by paying the difference in price for that subscription, prorated for the remainder of your term. And those numbers, we can go over them with you individually if that's something you'd like to do. We'll have more information on that. But if you do have, say for example, a perpetual suite that's a ultimate or a premium, there is no, like I mentioned before, there is no direct path into an industry collection yet. Autodesk has said that somewhere in the pipelines. We'll get you that information as soon as we get it.
Gotcha. So for example, Kyle, let's say you had AutoCAD. I'm not sure what you had, but you had AutoCAD and you're coming up on your third year of an AutoCAD subscription. AutoCAD roughly costs, I think, $1,700 a year. The collection now is roughly, what, $2,700 a year. For that last year, you wouldn't have to pay $2,700 a year to get AutoCAD and everything else. You'd pay the difference, and we don't have hard pricing on that yet. I expect to have it in the next couple of weeks. Be sure to share it with you. But you'd pay that difference. So you'd pay 27 minus 17. You'd pay $1,000, and you would get the rest of the tools for the remaining year. And then afterward, you could decide to subscribe or rent just AutoCAD again, or you can rent the whole collection at $2,700 a year. That's essentially how that would work.
Yep. And I have a question here from Greg. Does AutoCAD have a feature that allows you to demonstrate a plant walkthrough feature?
Plant walkthrough. I think he's referring to Navisworks, right?
Yes.
Is it? Yeah. Where you can actually do a simulation and walk through, and I can look at something depending on the LOD it was designed in. I can look at the different features of the plan, or actually click in on the product and view the attributes of it. Is that what you're referring to? I don't have that question in my screen.
Yeah, I think so. So yeah, Navisworks is that tool that allows you to kind of take your AutoCAD architecture data. For me, I'm more familiar with the manufacturing side of things. So what people do is they do their factory assets and factory design utilities in AutoCAD architecture as well as Inventor. They do export those things to Navisworks, and they can walk through the factories that way. I'm sure it's the same thing for plants.
Yeah, so excuse me, in the plant space, you'd be using the same tool, Navisworks. Mm-hmm. And there's two tiers of Navisworks right now. One is Simulate, the other one is Manage. Essentially, the lower level one, Simulate, would be the one that's used for. I think we've got some videos or some customers doing that in the biotech space and the pharma space. I'm not sure what Greg's in, but we can get you that information, Greg.
Definitely.
That's your question.
And that is, Navisworks Manage is included within the industry collection. So.
Oh yeah, good point. Yeah, if now it doesn't really matter which Navisworks. You'll get the high-end one with clash detection too. So you can actually walk through your plant and facility and look at it and see, okay, I've got my mechanical hitting my support straps or whatever it might be.
I've got my I-beam hitting my HVAC. That's not going to work. We're going to have to edit that.
You can center on that and simulate the whole process.
Definitely. Do we have anything else, Eric?
I think that's most of what I have. I'm looking at some of the questions here, and I kind of started jotting down notes based on everyone's questions. Hopefully we addressed. They're all mostly seem to be price-based. Hopefully we addressed them. And again, guys, we'll have the hard numbers to share with you. The reason we did it now is because I'd rather not wait till the last second when we do have the numbers. Maybe it's the week before stuff goes away. Hopefully now you can kind of start thinking, get an idea of what it's going to look like, and then once we have those hard numbers, we'll be happy to share them with you if you guys ask. My contact information is up there. You can also email Nigel, same format here, and we'll be happy to kind of clarify anything for you. But I think that answered most of the questions.
Definitely. Up here in the upcoming weeks, we do have a couple of sessions scheduled. We haven't gotten the exact order of them, but we do have the content. We're going to do a session here in a couple of weeks on AutoCAD Advanced Steel. So if that's something you do, you kind of build
for steel detailing. But
exactly, your frames.
We'll get you information once we get it. As for now, guys, yeah, feel free to contact us if we can do anything else. Thanks again for spending your lunch hour with us. I know it's a short week, and we're all still trying to catch up. So good luck with that, and have a great day.